to the ham shack, Harry. Let's start on the modern side.
All right.
Of this ham shack.
Okay, what do you got there?
This is where we do the DXing.
Okay.
The primary DX radios, the FT1000D, Yaesu, but I also have an ICOM IC765, which in fact is a better radio on sideband than the Yaesu.
Mm-hmm.
Then some old things here. Here's a Kenwood TS930.
Alrighty.
On top of that, a Drake R8, which I use for AM and shortwave broadcast reception.
Uh-huh.
A lot of accessories across the top. Most of those are pretty self-explanatory. Tucked in over there in the corner is a Drake L7 amplifier. It's kind of a standby amplifier, actually, and an antenna tuner on top of that, and some packet equipment and so on.
Okay.
Then around here on this L, going this direction, we have an old Ranger 2 that I use for AM work, primarily 10 meters. The computer terminal nestled in the middle is for the DX packet cluster, primarily to watch the DX on 160 meters. And there's a national...
That's basically why you have the computer?
Yes, just to keep track of the DX. So there's the packet cluster computer and a national NC300 receiver. The only NC300 that's here now.
What did I see in the other room?
There's
A
a
303?
303 in the
Okay.
other room.
Okay.
Now let's turn that off and turn around here the other way for a minute.
You want me off?
You'll enjoy this.
We're going to leave it on and turn around, right?
All right.
Okay.
This is a homebrew 3-1000 amplifier built in the late 1970s. So it's a little over 20 years old, maybe 25 years now. That's the Sirius DXing amplifier. Vacuum variables, Peter Dahl transformer, vacuum relays for full break-in. All the things that you want for Sirius CW DXing.
Pretty neat.
Now then.
Right there.
There it is. Completely homebrew, nothing but sheet metal and parts. There's not even a commercial chassis in it.
Okay, now this is neat.
A bit of a rare transmitter, the Collins KW1 AM transmitter from 1952. Runs an AM
I
kilowatt.
can feel the heat already. Or am I under a vent?
It must be under a vent. It does put out a little heat when it gets up and running. It's a good wintertime transmitter. They made 152 of
Was
these.
that 160 through 10?
160 through 10. Very easy to tune up. And
How often do you use that one?
a couple times a week anyway. I leave it tuned up on 160 meters.
Uh-huh.
And just when I want to talk to my friends on that band, I transmit on this, receive on the Drake R8, and there we are.
Well, that's kind of a mismatch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a mismatch.
Receiving on an R8 and transmitting on that. I'm going to report you to ER.
You should. Now this thing that looks like a desk is a little interesting. That's actually a Johnson desk kilowatt transmitter. Nestled in there in the corner.
We're going to get a close-up of the controls.
Driven by a Ranger.
Very nice. Very nice.
Driven by an old Johnson Ranger.
You found this in a garage sale too, right?
I found that at a ham fest in Jackson, Wyoming. Actually, while I was on vacation.
No kidding.
Brought it back with me.
Were you prepared to carry it, or how'd you get it back?
I was prepared.
Okay.
Brought it back in my Dodge van.
Very nice.
Very happy to find that. Now, it has a little cover. This Ranger drives.
Oh, how many of those were made?
About 600.
Okay, and what about the KW1?
150 of those were made. 152 actually. On the KW1 they made two of them with serial number 0, and then they made 1 through 150.
Now, how did that happen? The 2 with the 0?
I think they did it deliberately to goof people up.
No.
Well, one of them probably went to the owner of the company.
Okay.
You know, they were prototypes.
And 600 of these were made.
Right, roughly.
And this came the way we see it here in the desk.
Right. So all
you got the desk and
the whole thing.
The whole thing, the kilowatt.
Now then, Johnson Valiant, Collins 75A4. You have microphones everywhere for all these radios. This is kind of a favorite right here, Heathkit Apache. Bought that at the Elgin Swap Fest for $10. It was a complete wreck. It was covered with motor oil and sawdust. The glass was smashed out.
You wouldn't know it looking at it.
It's had a lot of restoration. It's had a little painting and so on, and it actually recovered quite well. Next to that, a Macintosh computer. We'll ignore that. Here's a HQ170A VHF model, very late model. Which is one of my favorite receivers, actually. 70A VHF. The 215
I like. I used to have one of them.
Yeah, we won't go everything one at a time on the top row, but just some interesting pieces. The HQ215 is kind of an interesting one.
Oh, I want to get that label on the Swan, on the Drake.
Oh yes, the SW4A, which is apparently some special model, and on the front it says designed especially for Radio New York Worldwide.
I think I got it in there. Yep, I do.
I haven't seen too many of those, so I don't know if that's special or not.
Never heard of that.
And the rest of this collection is largely Drake. Various models, 2C, 2B.
How do you like listening to that, what is it, the 2B?
Terrific receivers.
Isn't it? With the product detector?
Great receivers.
I like listening to mine. I think it's great.
Now we need to go in the back room after you pan.
Oh, that speaker up there, that's for the Collins
75A4.
That's in beautiful shape.
It has the proper color grill.
I don't know if that's going to come out. I'm looking through the viewfinder. It looks like it's coming out a little lighter than what it really is. So I don't know what's going to happen with
Those grills should be light gray. Usually they're not because they rust. Nothing else special on the top row.
Okay.
So let's go in the back room.
All right.
More.
On the floor here we got some Heath equipment. What is it, DX100?
That's the DX100. I call that my DX100 with the custom black cabinet and the 2-speed tuning knob. It's the limited
cruise
edition.
Control.
Right.
Okay.
Now you have to get a feel for this room.
Okay, right away, what am I looking at here?
Well, the first thing you run into in this room is another Collins KW1. Well,
your spare.
When they walk in front of you and beg to be bought, what are you going to do? Let's see. New items mixed with old items. But here's a rare receiver. That's the Hammerland Pro 310.
Pro 310.
1956. Made about 1,000 of them in 3 different colors. This happens to be a black one. They made gray ones and tan ones.
How'd you know about those different colors?
Oh, I talked to a fellow who's sort of a Pro 310 collector, and he told me about the 3 different colors. Another Drake R8. They'll keep turning up in various places.
Okay.
The Collins 32 V3.
I'm going to switch sides with you here. I think I'd be better off over here. Okay.
There's the Collins 32 V3 transmitter.
All right.
Here's a Collins 75A3 receiver, one of my favorite receivers, actually.
Okay.
This little 310 VFO is driving something that you'll see in just a minute.
All right.
Here's the RCA AR88.
That's nice.
In the original cabinet. This is kind of a
Don't see too many of them RCAs.
Wonderful audio. About 8 or 10 watts of push-pull audio. Fantastic sounding. Made a lot of them for the Second World War, but they mostly went to Britain, so you just don't find them in the U.S.
I read that somewhere recently, yeah.
Actually made a ton of them, but they all went to Britain and got lost.
Uh-huh.
Now this is the Collins 30K4. It's essentially a police transmitter from the late 1940s, police or taxi cab company.
Mm-hmm.
It's been converted for ham use. This is the commercial, the military T368. This one happens to be a D model made by Stromberg Carlson, matched up to a Collins R390A with an old Hallicrafters R42 speaker. Nice high fidelity AM station and a monitor scope and frequency counter going with that. Now let's see. We could pan across the top rows here. That's an HRO 50T, modified with Collins mechanical filters, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, quite a receiver. Here's a GPR 90 and the matching GSB1.
Oh, we gotta get we gotta get this one in.
GSB1 sideband adapter, kind of a rare item.
Yeah, we don't see any of these around. Look at this thing. Just about filled the screen with it with my back against the wall here.
Beautiful things.
Yeah.
Blue color. One of the very few receivers ever made that has band spread for the 160 meter band. Very unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Next to that, a P&H Electronics monitor scope.
Mm-hmm.
This is a National NC303. Very good AM and sideband receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the best of the National line. And next to that, another Collins 75A4. Above that, just junk and speakers. Only one interesting piece above that, really. Here's a Lafayette HE10, early 1960s. It was actually made by the Kenwood Corporation in Japan.
That's
what is now Kenwood.
That's the first one I've seen of those.
That was my first novice receiver. Not that actual receiver, but that was the first receiver I ever used as a novice. So that's why I picked that up. Next to that, an HRO5, unfortunately with a lot of spare holes in the front panel.
Very good. Yeah, I like that Kenwood. I mean the Lafayette.
Fun receiver.
I get a kick out of some of the stuff they made.
Well, we'll go the other way here.
Alrighty.
Let's go towards the workbench.
Alright.
It gets even junkier if you go this direction. But here we start with a Hallicrafters SX115. A great sideband receiver. Sounds very good. Next to that, a nice example of a Viking 500 AM transmitter. I use that all the time.
That's a beaut. That's a real beaut. I don't know if it's really getting a good representation of what it looks like in real life, because that's a nice looking piece right there. It really is.
A little McGuire's car wax will make most any Johnson look like that.
It's got to be McGuire's?
McGuire's car wax cleaner. Best there is for Johnson equipment.
Okay.
Get some of this junk out of the way. We'll go on down. Now next to that is a Hammerland HQ180 that is kind of a wreck. That came in here at a cheap price. It had been in a flood. It had an extra toggle switch in the front panel. All the paint was corroded off the bezel. Had to take it apart, repaint the bezel, clean up the dials, plug the hole, polish the rust off the chassis. It's still not the best looking HQ180, but it's the best working one I've had.
Is that right?
The radios that look good don't always work good.
Now, you've heard that here first, on tape.
Well, you can't be too fussy.
Boy, that one you got on the bench there that's all apart,
this poor old
that looks like it's really a neat deal.
Yeah.
I
This is
like to run into the guy that owns that one.
This is Harry's Valiant. Whether this radio lives is yet to be seen. But it's really too large to bury, and the ground is frozen here in the middle of the winter, so I think we might as well work on it.
That's my $50 Valiant.
See if we can fix it. What have we got to lose here? We have very little to lose. But don't blame me. if it sounds awful like most Valiants. No, we'll make this one sound good.
All right.
Above that's all the test equipment and junk and the parts and such things. Nothing special.
Oh, we got to show the way you got this cable coming in here.
The cable.
Oh yeah, right through the wall here.
The coax cables from the yard.
Okay, and then we go up here, and this is a little, what would you call it? Like a little passageway for the cable to get over the doorway.
Right.
Little U-shaped attachment underneath the ducting.
Now it's hard to see where it goes because it goes behind the KW1.
Okay, that's going to go into the mystery area.
There's a 4-inch piece of PVC back there
Uh-huh.
that goes right out through the wall. I just took a
I've been
hole
thinking
saw,
about
cut a hole in
PVC,
the
and
wall.
when I get my act together with a tower and stuff, I was thinking about PVC, and that's probably the way to go, isn't it?
Good way to do it. Now,
Oh wait, I got to show where this came through the wall here.
there's some dead radios.
Right there.
Right, comes into the main shack.
Everything all. He says it's kind of messy in here, but it's not. It's pretty neat. He's just got a few papers laying around. That's all. He's got all his electronics in order. He just has a few papers laying around.
Now that's about all there is, except for a few storage shelves.
Okay.
Which
What are we going to walk over here? 101?
that's a 101 on the floor.
Okay.
Poor thing has no cabinet. It does work. And an HT32 on the floor. No cabinet.
Geez, I wonder where you can pick up one of them.
It doesn't work yet, but it'll get there. We'll get it there.
That's the A, isn't it? Yeah.
That's just the straight HT32, I think.
Oh, it's straight 32.
The
Okay.
original. We'll put that on the air one of these
There's
days.
a 32, 32A, and 32B, right?
Now this back corridor is
At my own
not
risk.
much filming space back here.
We got a good view of this, though. Look at this.
But you're looking in the window of a Collins 30K1 that needs restoration. It's still in rough condition.
Oh, Colin's all right. Let's get a peek in here. Back here to this
We can turn that tube
police
on.
van. Oh, yeah?
Light that up a little bit.
Didn't you?
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Good transmitter.
Well, they had to be. If they were in police service, they were on 24 hours a day.
Right. And some of the best audio ever made, actually.
Uh-huh.
The B&W 5100B
Okay.
on the bottom.
It's a pretty popular rig.
Nice transmitter.
Uh-huh.
A lot of fun. Above that is a Heathkit Marauder sideband transmitter.
Uh-huh. Well, the Marauder, is that, you think the Marauder or the Mohawk? Which one?
Well, the Mohawk was the matching receiver. The Marauder was the
I mean the
sideband.
Apache.
The Apache was AM and this was sideband.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference.
This doesn't transmit on AM?
No.
Okay.
This is a very nice looking Marauder. It's quite common when you find a very nice looking Heathkit. And the reason they look so nice is because they were built wrong and they never worked. And so they put it back in the box and just
So
put
they
it
got
away.
shelved, huh?
That's why it looks so nice. An R390A receiver. Above that, a National NC200. And this rather uninteresting looking side here is the side of an SX88.
Well, we got to come around and see if we can get that in there. I don't know.
Kind
I think
of a
what
low
I'm
quality receiver.
I think what I'm going to have to do is like this.
Going to try it that way.
Yeah.
The SX88 is probably one of the poorest things made by Hallicrafters. I'm not sure why anybody likes them, but we're going to see if we can make this one work.
Yeah, that's the one everybody's hot to get, and Jim just look how thrilled he is about that set. He doesn't think all that much about it, but he's got one anyhow.
Right there it sits. It sits here in the junk storage area.
Yeah.
Not out on the table where it's being used. The rest of this, there's nothing visible.
Mostly storage,
really.
huh?
Mostly just junk.
Okay. All right. And then before we leave, we're going to have to get a picture of the antenna system outside. Where are we at now, Jim?
We're standing in front of the house,
All right.
looking at the antenna system.
Looks like a regular house so far.
Nothing unusual.
There it is. That's the thing that's got the whole village of Downers Grove all crazy here, right?
That's right. They love it.
How'd you get those sirens to happen now while I'm taking this picture?
The top antenna is a 2-element high-gain 40-meter Yagi at 100 feet. Right below that there's a rotatable dipole for the work bands, 10 megahertz, 18 and 24 megahertz. Below that, a KT34XA tri-band Yagi at about 85. You just come down the tower, there's various wire antennas, an inverted V for 160, inverted V for 80 and for 40 meters. Right down here on the bottom, this cross-looking thing is a horizontal receiving loop for 160 meters.
Wow.
That's for DXing, just for receiving. It's low noise receiving antenna.
How's it work? Pretty good?
No.
You heard it here first.
I have a number of receiving antennas for 160, and that one's okay, but it's not the best one.
Yeah. Looking good.